being iced when you're about to kick a field goal. Could go better, could go worse. We'll see.
No, it's going to go better, 100%. You'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
Let me see. Is this recording? Yep. All right. What's up, risers? Welcome to the Buy or Sell podcast. I am joined by co-host Nolan Ventry, a data analyst and fantasy football savant for nearly 2 decades. We're going to highlight a few of the top performers from the past week. We're going to see if what we saw and witnessed on TV was worth buying or selling into the production. First up, I need to say hi to my co-host. What's up, Nolan?
Hey, Mitch. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm ready to rock and roll. The first number we're going to call today is going to be Deandre Swift. We saw that he was going to be a starter. The Lions announced it about 45 minutes before kickoff at 1 p.m. Eastern, and they said Swift is going to be a starter. We did update our projections over at teamriseorfall.com on the NFL Study Hub. We made sure that he was going to pop in the projections a little bit. I boosted him a ton for DFS. Very excited about this kid's talent, and when I figured he was going to get the opportunity, I was all in. So I'm curious to see how he did on your end and what you think, if it's worth buying or selling into the production. I think I've kind of let off with my personal take. I love him. I absolutely love him, but tell me why I'm right or wrong.
Well, I absolutely think that you're right, Mitch. This is a moment that season-long fantasy players have been waiting for all year. We knew that at some point during this season, Swift was going to take over the reins in the Lions' backfield, and now we're seeing that in Week 10 against Washington. You mentioned he did get the start, and he ended up with 149 total yards, 16 carries for 81 yards, and 5 receptions for 68 yards. So we're seeing him involved in both facets of the game as well as the red zone. All great signs pointing forward. You're seeing Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson in this game combining for only 5 carries behind him. He's bringing that big play potential the Lions have missing. He has a nice blend of speed and power, which we could see on several of his plays throughout the game. I love his schedule coming up. 4 out of his next 6 are against defenses in the bottom 10 against the run, with 3 of those actually against teams in the bottom 5. Next week, he has Carolina. He's going to be a fringe RB1, and throughout the rest of the season, I like him as a RB2 and then a matchup-based RB1 going forward.
Fantastic. That's unbelievable. And for the owners that drafted him early, hoping that he was going to be doing this from week 1, you're finally paying off right now if you held on to him. Now, we're going to stay in Detroit because there's another player there that's starting to splash, and he's making a lot of plays both in fantasy and on the football field right now with Kenny G out, and that's Marvin Jones. He has looked phenomenal as of late, but is this something we're buying or selling long term?
So personally, Mitch, I'm going to be selling on Marvin Jones. We know in this game, this previous week, he had 10 targets. He caught 8 of those for 96 yards and a touchdown. Looked absolutely great, as you mentioned. We also know Galladay is out. He's trending towards returning this week coming up. Hawkinson is also banged up. And so in the wide receiver pecking order, I would argue both of those players are definitely ahead of him. We know this is a low-volume passing offense. They intend to run the ball when they come out. The running game looked phenomenal with Swift back there. So I see this continuing to be a trend going forward, with the run being the primary focus of this team. 4 out of his next 6 games for Marvin Jones are against defenses that are in the top 10 against wide receivers. I don't like that, especially for a guy who's as low volume as he is. He's averaging only 5 targets a game throughout the season. So the rest of the way, I'm looking at him as a low floor wide receiver 3, Mitch.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. And I think especially if they're handing over the reins, one thing people might kind of overlook here is the fact that if Swift is going to end up being the alpha and omega in this offense, what does that do to the upside of the other players and their roles? And with TJ Hawkinson returning yesterday, I think he's going to take away some of that red zone shine that Marvin Jones Jr. has right now. And if Hawkinson and Swift end up getting the larger side of the market share inside the red zone, then you're hoping that Marvin Jones gets those over-the-top catches, which you just can't bank on those from week to week. That's not something you want to invest into. Now, there are a couple other players that are probably some pretty good waiver wire pickups as well going into week 11, because these guys just aren't going to be very highly coveted players, and one of them is Wayne Gallman. He doesn't have the name that screams, pick me up, I'm going to win you a championship in fantasy football. It's Wayne Gallman. I mean, come on. But the fact of the matter is this kid keeps scoring touchdowns, and they're giving him work. What are you seeing, Nolan?
Yeah, I'm seeing just that, man. We're seeing a guy who's been on this team for several years, and he is taking this opportunity, and he's running with it. Last week, he had 18 carries for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Eagles. The Eagles are not an easy team to run on. They're in the top 10. So we're also seeing a positive trend in terms of his involvement. We know 4 weeks ago he had 10 carries, then he had 12, then he had 14, and now he's up to 18. He's also got 5 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. So this is something that absolutely warrants our attention. Freeman was just put on the IR. He'll be out for the next 3 weeks. So the opportunity is continuing to grow for him. We do have Alfred Morris and Dion Lewis continuing to be involved, but they're clearly in complementary roles. The Giants have their bye in Week 11, but after that, he has a very good schedule. He faces 4 teams in the middle of the pack against the run, and he has an absolutely gorgeous matchup against Cincinnati in Week 12. Going forward, I view him as a volume-based running back 2/running back 3 until Freeman returns. Once Freeman does return, I do think there's a possibility we continue to see him command the leading carries in this backfield. Freeman was only averaging 3.2 yards per carry throughout the season, and we have Gallman at a healthy 4.0. So that's what I think we're looking at going forward, Mitch.
Yeah, and I was looking at we have 2 resources people can use on the website. One of them is completely free, teamriseorfall.com. And then if you hover over the NFL tab, go to the NFL season-long study hub. There's all sorts of data there. We're talking red zone stats inside the 20, the 10, the 5, snap rates. We have projections for all of you who need them for your season-long, standard and PPR leagues. We have projections. We show a lot of Vegas content. On top of that, there's this game flow tab where you can look at the team run-pass distribution, how often they run it and pass it, and then the opposing team and how much yardage they are giving up to each position and things like that. There's just a lot of goodies there, including snap rates. We cover air yards data, ADOT, average depth of target, and snap rates. There's market share and all sorts of goodies. And I truly think this is just a resource that if you're looking for something free, we got you covered. It's here. And I was looking at the Giants specifically. And when you're looking at Wayne Gallman, his snaps have been at 53%, 43%, and 57% over the last 3 weeks heading into Week 10. On top of that, he had just around 15 touches per game. What I like even more is when I slide over to the running back tab itself, I can look at the red zone data. He has been incredibly efficient inside the red zone. He had 6 carries going into yesterday inside the 20 and had pounded in the rock on 3 of those carries. All 3 of them were inside the 5-yard line. He was 3 for 3 inside the 5, scoring touchdowns. Listen, that's a spot where I thought Alfred Morris would be the man, but he's not right now. It's Wayne Gallman. And when I slide over and I look at Wayne Gallman's production, and we look at yesterday as well, against Philadelphia, Gallman looked like he was just the centerpiece of this running game as they were pounding the rock all day. Alfred Morris looked okay too, but I think we know what we get out of Elf. I like the fact that of Wayne Gallman, we're definitely going to get red zone carries. He had 2 more red zone touchdowns yesterday on 19 total touches. There's a lot to like there. Gallman, if he's still out there in your waivers for whatever reason, he needs to be a priority pickup. And then DFS, we got to start paying attention to him a little bit more, because if his price tag's at $5K, you're getting that touchdown equity and touch equity there. That's not too bad. Now here's one that's going to be an interesting one to discuss, and that's MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling over there in Green Bay. Mr. Drops. Week in and week out, let you down in both fantasy and DFS, real life football, whatever you want it to be. The kid has been just an absolute bust. I believe he was a 7th round pick, so I guess we can't invest too much in his production or get too upset when he doesn't have it. But Valdes-Scantling, 6 catches yesterday, 6 targets yesterday, 4 catches for $149 and a long 78-yard touchdown. Are you buying or selling the MVS production?
Well, let me start by saying this, Mitch. I'm definitely selling this production. We're liking what we see out of MVS right now. We know that with his drops, he definitely fell out of favor with Aaron Rodgers for a period there in his career, and I think that he's just starting to get that trust back, and that's a great thing. But the truth of the matter is, he plays a very specific role in this offense, and his targets over the last 4 weeks have been 4, 1, 4, and 6. So while 6 is the most that he's had in those last 4 weeks, I'm still not positive that that's going to continue to increase. We saw Adams come on and off the field multiple times in this week's game. He only played 76% of the snaps. We know that Allen Lazard is due back next week, more than likely. So that small number of looks, I think, is going to scale back even further. This is not a guy that you can roll out every single week and expect him to score a touchdown, but he will have those games where he has those big yardage and maybe a touchdown here or there. So going forward, I view him as a boomer or bust flex, especially in deeper leagues. So He certainly has value in a role on teams, but I'm not buying the production that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. MVS has his snap rate has been 84%. Here's the last 4 weeks: 84%, 82%, 83%, and 89%, with only a market share of 10.45% of all pass targets. Listen, we all know that Aaron Rodgers only throws the football to people he trusts. I mean, that is something we've seen over the past decade. He holds grudges, 100%, whether it's family or football family. He holds grudges. And I think MVS has just lost his trust over the years. And even after a big game, there's nothing to buy there for me. I guess if you're in a very large, like 14, 16 team league, MVS, I suppose he's worth a look if you think that, Devontae Adams is going to be out. But we've also seen Devontae Adams miss games and MVS be in this position before and still literally do absolutely nothing with it. All right, last player on the list, both a waiver wire potential target and somebody who you're starting to turn some heads at the wide receiver position. That's Michael Pittman Jr. You buying or are you selling?
I'm absolutely buying, Mitch, and there's a lot of reasons that I'm going to go through here as to why I'm buying. But, if you think about Phillip Rivers' history in this league, he's always had that one big target that he has always leaned on. You had the Vincent Jackson years, now you had the Keenan Allen years, and now here we are with Michael Pittman, and he absolutely fits that profile. In Week 9, we saw Pittman play 87% of the snaps, so we knew something was brewing on that team. We started to see him get more and more involved. In Week 10, he led the Colts with 7 catches on 8 targets for 101 against the Titans. These were season highs for him in targets, catches, and yards in Week 10. And now, if you ask me, he appears to be an every down wide receiver. So he's got 15 targets in the last 2 weeks. Looking ahead, the Colts have one of the easiest schedules for wide receivers. They do play the Packers in Week 11. But after that, they have 5 games against teams in the bottom 15, 4 of those actually in the bottom 10. So I really like Michael Pittman going forward, and I think we've not even seen the best of him going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting when you're looking at the type of wide receivers that he could be. He kind of fits that mold as being a wide receiver one, and they really haven't had one there for quite a while. They've been trying to fill the role with a bevy of early round draft picks there at wide receiver, but none of them can stay healthy. And Michael Pittman Jr. is including him, by the way. He is one of them who has struggled to get onto the field and then stay on the field, but we are seeing him get an opportunity right now, and he splashed yesterday. He absolutely did. I like the fact that in his games that he has started and been able to finish, he's had 6 or more targets in 3 of those 6 games, and we are just waiting for him to be the number one. He's definitely going to be an every down wide receiver going forward. My issue with him is just the fact that, even with T.Y. Hilton back, of course, Hilton was back this past week, only had 5 targets. It's the ghost of T.Y. Hilton. There's certainly not much to like there anymore in T.Y. I think he's just kind of washed at this point in his career. But when we're looking at quarterbacks, who else is looking kind of washed to me? It's Phillip Rivers. So I think the upside potentially is capped a little bit when you're looking at Indianapolis as an offense in whole. We are 8 games into the season, 9 games into the season for Phillip Rivers, and he has just 12 touchdown passes, averaging 260.8 yards per game. He has not been the same pushing the ball down the field. And in the red zone, he is having one of the worst seasons of his career. He is just, get this, I looked at his career stats, completion rate over 65% inside the 20 over his career. He's just 18 for 35 this year. And if you look at the team he has around him, it's just a bunch of small wide receivers and a bunch of tight ends who are fast, athletic type plays, but no big bodies in the red zone. It's Mo Alley-Cox. He's really the only big one down there, but he's splitting reps with Jack Doyle and Trey Burton. So, who is Phillip Rivers going to pepper inside the red zone? We don't really know. The running backs are all splitting time there as well. I think the wide receivers as well are going to be rotational at best. Michael Pittman, probably the loss leader there in Indianapolis. Nolan, great job. First podcast together. I really enjoyed Buy or Sell. I can't wait to review week 11, dude. Good job, man.
Absolutely. You as well, Mitch. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, take care, man. Best of luck, everybody, in your Week 10 Monday Night Football games. And if you're listening to this later, in your Week 11 slate. We have a nice promo going on over there at teamriseorfall.com. If you use promo 10 off, you end up getting $10 off all of our content. It's a redonkulous amount of content, and you get it all for just $19.99 in your first month. And you also get $20 in it's basically a coupon, a $20 coupon to use at fantasycruncher.com. Hit that sub button, hit that like button. There's going to be 12 YouTube videos this week. That's right, 12. I already posted one for Monday Night Football picks. Please check that out. Whenever you guys hit that sub button or you hit that like button, that's a huge, huge help and support for somebody giving out a bunch of free crap. All right, take care, everybody. I will see you in week 11.